national and cultural. It's about the way in which the role of a woman has changed tremendously between a generation. And I guess my first, question for you is, has feminism fucked us? Has this idea of this changing role of women in some way put us in this tension between what this old world and this new world, and in this constant sense of negotiation and self-doubt?
I absolutely wouldn't say that it has fucked us up. I think that that's not the way I think. I think it's an extremely important movement in the history of people, of humankind, for men and women, and everybody included. So, but I do think that change happens in multiple phases. You can make a declaration, you can change the law, you can open doors, but what follows in terms of the intricacies of the experience takes more than one generation. Every time I want to be critical of feminism, I only have to think about the places where women have zero voice or power or protection. I have to think about my own grandmother, who the gap between where she was and where I am. I have to think even with my mother and how she was a full-time working person. We lived above the store, so I saw her working morning and night. The store was open some days till 9 o'clock. She came upstairs, she cooked her 2 meals made from scratch, and there was no complaint. But her aspiration inside was that, is there a different way? Is there a way that she didn't have to carry some of the burdens that she was carrying? And then came the next generation, which began to say, if I do all these things, you, partner, you should do those things too. And then came my generation, which is basically the designer generation. I get to design my relationship. But that demands that I know what I want. Authenticity and to be true to ourselves is not an easy thing to come by, and certainly not in your 20s.
Right.
So when you say what's changed, in the 60s, 80% of people in their 20s in the United States were married. Today, 20% of people in their 20s are married.
I don't even think 80% of people in their 30s are married.
But that means that our parents' generation saw marriage as a cornerstone experience. I meet you, and together we build the foundation of our life.
Right.
We have developed the capstone experience of marriage. Marriage or committed relationships, it doesn't matter. But the capstone thing means I've already developed, I've already built myself, I'm already on a certain track, I have an idea of what I want, where I stand in the world, and you come as a confirmation of who I am. You come to help me preserve my hard-won identity.
Yeah, and so much of our culture is like self-help, self-love, self-care.
Yeah, a bit too much self in front of every word, I would say.
Yes. What word would you put there instead of self?
Other.
Others. Yeah.
I think that the over-index, the over-emphasis on the self at a detriment of our ability to actually think about others is not necessarily helping us at this point.
Right. I see this shift you're talking about from the other to ourself, and I think about it a lot, especially because of my cultural roots.
Yeah.
And as you said, I went to visit my father, and after my father passed away, I wrote a whole piece about how obligation gives, doesn't just take, it gives a lot. But I also think that there's this real nostalgia.
And I think that we need more people in that sense, like you, it's very natural for you to write that piece. But in fact, it's not a natural piece for others who know you to read. And it puts them in front of another dimension. Obligation is not hot at this moment. It's not popular.
Right.
Authenticity and personal truth and honesty is much more and we will forego our relationships at this moment in order to preserve this authenticity. And what you're saying is a relational model, which I think we could really use hearing a lot more about, because it directly connects to everything else people want to discuss about loneliness.
Right. Except
these things are connected.
Except